But in terms of like, and then we can skip this part because we've now seen it. And yeah, so it starts you right back at the beginning. There's Karen, the boatman of the Styx over here. And it's all based loosely in Greek mythology, but now we start with a lot more cards, and we just generally will have an easier time of it this time. So we can do the same thing as we did before. And you notice how this guy has a little yellow hourglass? We won't actually need it because we have 3 swords, but if we needed to take, so we could kill him, and then you'll see over here, there's a little hourglass with a 1, that means we have an extra turn. So I'm actually doing something kind of stupid, which is killing all of them. I really should not have killed all of them. I should have just gone up. And so like before, like this guy can't hit me, so I can somewhat protect myself by not opening this chest. The problem is then if I try to use this AoE here, then it'll damage the chest. Okay, so we have this guy right here. The whip of this mad bull resurrects the defeated skeletons. I better take care of it as quickly as possible. And that tooltip actually is true. You should kill these guys as quickly as possible, because they can resurrect multiple skeletons. So like if I killed both of these with the axe, he could resurrect both of them, like making it completely moot. So we gotta just accept that we're gonna take the damage, kill him. And then now would be a good time to open this chest. Let's see, let's get some AoE. Okay, so let's just clear the front rank. Because these guys will be able to hit me anyway. And they only do 1 damage, so it's not a big deal. So here's a situation where if we kill this guy with the sword... Oh, I should have killed the other guy. We can just clear these and go on to the next level. And it's really important when you do get to the point where you can progress in the classic mode of the game to use as few cards as possible. Precisely because, like, once you get past the 7th or 8th floor, like, the number of enemies you have to defeat ramps up considerably. So here's a situation where it doesn't do me any good to keep the chest and the gems in place because all of these kitties can hit me with their arrows. So I might as well pull 2 more forward in order to kill them. So the whip allows you to pull enemies towards you. I have never really found the whip to be especially useful. The dagger is useful because you can get through armored enemies really quickly, and I also like to use shield cards. So let's take the gems. Then we can use our... Okay, so here's an instance where I think I'm going to want to save the dagger until the Minotaur is in the front rank because I can kill him in 1 hit. So I'm going to use my shield. And then I'm going to, let's see, what's the best way to do this? It's like I really need to clear this rank. So let's try to bring him forward. Alright, so here's actually a difficult decision. Increasing your hand size is really important because if you play through your entire hand, then you redraw to the maximum size of your hand every turn. So having more cards in your hand to play with is obviously a good thing. I also happen to like the improved shield, but I'm going to go with hand size. So now I have 5 cards instead of just the 4. So here's a situation where I can use my axe to clear out that front rank, and because that skeleton was the repeater dude, I can now use my dagger to kill the Minotaur. And I think I'm just going to clear this line and get to the stairs. At the beginning of each floor, I get 2 swords and I draw them immediately. It's not great. Every 7 crystals pick up, gain 1 axe, also not great. Oh, these are all not great. If my will points are below 5 and I find a confidence card, I immediately draw it. These are all bad. Yeah, I might as well take the swords, it's free cards. kill this guy. Take the 1 damage.
Am I in one of my
and
dreams?
so the parallax effect is also used really effectively in the
labyrinthine maze
cutscenes
of
where
my imagination,
you see her staring into the keyhole,
with my will as my
and
only
then
guide.
you're looking back at her through the keyhole. And then that's when you get sort of this scene where, again, where I was talking about the parallax effect earlier. So I want to talk a little bit about the sort of like the allegory of all of this and how you're like seeing things, because we will get to a floor where something really interesting happens. I don't want to spoil it for you. I want to see if you notice. So what do you think of this game so far, Lauren? Stupid? Am I crazy to like this game?
Definitely not crazy. I've just been like kind of digesting and absorbing everything that you've been saying. Because like it kind of reminds me, I put this in chat, but it reminds me a little bit of Tetris. Like,
yeah,
where the enemies are like keep coming and they're flanking. But as if Tetris had like a linear level design, so you could just kind of go through, right, one path of Tetris, if that makes any sense. Like if Tetris is about making progress versus like...
Yeah, and it's about sort of like the steady ramping up. Although it's interesting because Tetris like starts you off easy and then like accelerates slowly over time. Whereas in many ways, like this is sort of the opposite. It's like it begins at full acceleration and kind of like tempers it down to a point where you can handle it. But I thought you didn't really like Tetris. I thought you...
Yeah, so I don't really like Tetris. But like what's interesting to me is like I think that's why you really like this game. Like you're not crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know I like Tetris, so...
Right? Like...
Yeah.
The reason why this game feels weird, because like it's kind of deck buildy Tetris-y, right? As if Tetris gave you a deck of cards and was like, here are all the shapes that you could use against these other shapes, right? Like circles are better against triangles, right? L-shaped blocks are better against, right? Like the inverse of L-shaped blocks, right? And then suddenly but then you put cute art to it, and you like there's the similar elements of it, right? But for me, like, you're explaining the game, and as we kind of go through the game, I'm kind of just picking up on those like very nice, like soothing rhythmic qualities, right?
Yeah, it does kind of have a rhythm game quality to it, where like you sort of, once you start to understand what the mobs are and like how to react to them, you can sort of do it almost autonomically in the way a rhythm game wants you to. So I'm going to use the lightning, and I'll show you what it does. So lightning basically kills all enemies of the same type. So this one will kill all cats, and if we target it here, it will kill skeletons. I want to kill all the cats. So that way we can get our gems and reduce the amount of damage that we're going to be taking. And so the reason why I did that like that is because I knew it would then clear up a single line so as to make this AoE more effective.
Rocks come in when you kill enemies? Like, is that what happens?
Yeah, once you clear out like all of the ranks of enemies on a given like floor, then it's just rocks behind them. And you actually can attack the rocks, I'll show you. And sometimes there is stuff in the rocks. That is not a card I wanted stolen. I should have waited till I had the stairs to then show.
Like, no!
It's fine.
So to go to the next level. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're in classic, and classic usually you've played it on easy.
I played it on both. I played it on easy and classic. My classic one is I started a new you have 6 save slots, and so I started a new save slot for this, so that way it would like begin from the beginning, as it were. Because I think the way it begins is actually really important. That idea that like it is incredibly hard from the beginning, and you have to work through it. Because one of the primary metaphors of the game, if we get far enough through it, you'll start to realize that like Iris fighting demons literally on the game board is analogous to her trying to deal with her inability to communicate with other people. And so the idea that like, the more she struggles, the more she gains the ability to keep struggling and to keep like doing better. It's really, I don't know, maybe I'm just like reading too much into this, but there is this really cool way in which I think it like visually represents what therapy feels like. This idea
Probably, yeah.
Especially, and I think it's really interesting because it does it in a way that I think is legible to kids. I don't think there are a lot of games that do a good job of like being legible to children.
I mean, if I was a child, I don't know if I would have been like, wow, this is exactly what therapy is going to be like. Like,
maybe not, no.
I don't think so, right? But I mean, for us, it's interesting to look back on it. I'm like, is this a game that you've been playing with Nika?
So I tried to play this with Nika. It's not her thing. It's weird because she will do a really good job of acting like she enjoys a game if she can play it with me. And I do the same thing for her as well. So this goes back and forth. So like, I really don't like Genshin Impact all that much, especially now that I'm at the point where it's like extremely grindy. But she loves Genshin Impact. So we play it together. She'll like sit next to me at my computer and she'll play it on her iPad and I'll play it on the computer. And we just have a lot of fun because it's about, it's about ordinary like parental bonding. And she watched me play this, but I could tell that she wasn't really into it because she can't hide her emotions very well. And that's one of the things I like about her as a human being.
Games are different for every person, right? Like,
yeah.
I personally play this game because this is not my rhythmic, like, happy place, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, it's your rhythmic happy place. And, like, there's valid in that, right? Or validity.
Yeah, and it's a game that I can play while, hanging out with you and just, like... By the way, how's your week been? Like, I didn't even really get a chance to ask you.
Oh, yeah. My week's been pretty good. Like, being a game developer has got its pros and cons. I mean, I'm looking at this game and I'm like, wow, this is so rhythmic for you, and you're just, like, zoning out. And I'm like, oh, I wonder, like, what an interesting idea. Like, let me spill this. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I was mentioning earlier was talking about how, like, the backgrounds move more slowly. So there is a background layer on this level here where these little mountains and this tree thing is. I wish I could remember who the artist was. The art style of this game reminds me of this children's book author whose name is escaping me. Maybe it'll come to me. Okay, so I'm going to shield up because this is going to be a rough one. Because there's a boss in this one. Alright, how are we going to approach this? I don't have any daggers, so killing armored dudes is going to be rough. Let's see if there's any in here. There are not. The fire is good. The swords are good. At least in this instance, swords are good.
Wait, so did you get those from the chest that was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you pick up a chest, the way it works is, if the chest is undamaged, you pick 2 piles of cards. And then you get as many cards as it shows you. So if there's like a stack of 4 or a stack of 6, you get 6. But then in addition to that, and this is an important strategic element, you get 1 in your hand. So if I pick up a stack of swords and a stack of the flame-lined ones or the fire ones, I get 1 of both, and the stack gets added to my deck. So it's a good way to, like, if you need a card immediately, like to click on a chest to see if you can pull one. I was hoping to get a dagger, but I didn't. So,
like that I didn't, so... yeah, there's RNG, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of RNG involved. And I kind of don't want to clear this row anymore because I don't want to bring up... Because this guy isn't going to do much damage to me. This skeleton in the front, he just does 1.
You regain your health over time, or do you not? Or your will?
You can. So there are there are power-ups within a run that you can get that will, like, whenever you do damage, you gain 1 will back for like each point of damage you do. I used to think that one was pretty powerful, but I learned that it's better to not take damage than to like heal it. There's also there's a really powerful memory ability, so like the ones that you like toggle on between runs, that will give you half of your total will every time you start a level. That one's pretty good, because that's the point at which you're most likely to be down on your will. So, like, having it come back up at the beginning of a level is actually pretty useful.
That one sounds pretty great. It's interesting. I like that it's every run or every game or whatever, and you've got these, like, persistent variables. It feels like, did this game come out before or like after Hades? Like, I feel like that's like the new game.
They were roughly
like,
contemporaneous. I think it came out a little before.
Isn't that crazy how like we're all thinking the same thing in game development, and then like 2 games come out with like the same thing?
Yeah, and this game is especially weird because it was made by one dude. This is definitely like an auteur's game. Like the designer. So the guy who made it is like he's mostly like an illustrator and like he does like children's media of like all sorts of kinds. You know, he does animation. He's done books, and this is his art style. And at some point, he just got it in his head to be like, I'm gonna make a game, and then he did, and this is what resulted. And I don't know. I think it's pretty rad, to be perfectly honest. Let's see.
Oh, it is.
Oh, I need to heal, or I'm gonna die. Okay, so we're gonna clear out this row up here, and then we're gonna clear away this guy here. See, so I'm trying to think a little bit more tactically now rather than just like, you know, hey, I'm going to show you some mechanics. So if you've seen what I've done, like I've cleared 2 lines all the way up to like the rock bits where no more will spawn, while keeping the guy who has the really powerful AoE ability inactive. So that way, like when he does come on, his AoE ability is only going to affect 2 dudes. So a lot of this game is about damage mitigation. It doesn't really teach you that, but it becomes pretty clear that that's kind of what you have to do. You both have to mitigate damage to your deck, and you have to mitigate damage to your will. I don't really have... Okay, actually, this is probably...
A weird actions chart, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that's where the game gets like a little bit too complex for me, right? Is like you have to mitigate both damages, like that's a little strange.
Well, but I mean, that's also true. Like, that's why I said it's very much like Magic the Gathering, because that's what you have to do in Magic as well. Not quite as much as you do in this game, because burn decks in Magic are like a subset of decks. They're not... well, like, with different metas, they've been more and less common at different times. But, you know, in Magic, you have both, like, health, and you can lose by completely burning through your deck. And so that is true of this game as well. The difference between this and Magic the Gathering is that in here, like, that is always in play. Like, you always have to be thinking about both, rather than just, like, say, in a particular meta. So in this situation...
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So in this situation, I'm just gonna... I got plenty of health, so... See, so when he used his, like, shout ability to, you know, make them attack twice, because that front rank was clear, like, it just didn't affect anything. And he himself doesn't do a ton of damage. So, like, if I get him by himself in the front row, he just doesn't do anything. So that's what I mean by you have to, like, really think... You have to think both, like, spatially and kind of analytically at the same time. And I am both of those people, so I guess that's probably why this game appeals to me.
Whenever there's a game like this, it definitely is going to appeal to, like, the person who made it. Like, an auteur game is for other auteurs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But the thing is, the game was also really well reviewed. Like, I could not find a bad review of this game. And so, but it didn't sell well. And I don't know, like, maybe you have more thoughts on that, like, you know, the variables that are involved in, like, whether or not something sells well, but I don't know. That kind of made me sad when I heard that, because it was like, actually, damage reduction is really good to get that.
I mean, games are really hard to sell. Like, I mean, if everybody could be AAA, right? Like, or have a AAA success with, like, a AA or single A, like, monetary value, right? Like, we would.
Yeah.
It's not so much the marketing budget that makes the game bigger, or like that the people or the amount of staff or like the ambition. Like, every game can be successful in its own right. This game may have not made a lot of money, but it's probably still been successful. Like, you're streaming it, that's a success.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it probably, you know... No, you're right. There has to be space for games that have different measures of success. Especially because like it's kind of silly to only measure the success of a game based upon like its sales. That's just sort of ridiculous.
Yeah, and unlike film, which I think like they have a Rotten Tomatoes score, and some Rotten Tomatoes are good and some are bad. Like Metacritic really shouldn't be as like a huge thing, as I think a lot of people think that it is. Like that's really not a way to review a game because games are so subjective, right? You can bomb games without ever having.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, especially when you're talking about Metacritic. Metacritic can be gamed. it can be gamed. We definitely need help.
9.
So I'm gonna pull one of those, and I'm also gonna pull some shields because we need to stay alive. All right, let's keep our girl alive, or keep her will up, as it were. So these dudes right here, they have been added on this run. They drop these traps. These traps do a lot of damage, but you can destroy them before they get to you. I'm going to use this Amphora to block that one. Actually, since I have a shield up, it would be a good idea to just activate them all right now. We're going to kill this guy. Activate.
Like, I know you said you were a girl fighting demons and stuff, but like, I really thought you were an owl fighting crabs.
Oh, okay, so we got special cards now.
The whole time, I was like, I'm so excited that he like is really into the lore and he's getting like this metaphor. And I was like, wait a second, maybe those are legs. And then I saw it, and it's a girl fighting not crabs, but well, like demons, like okay.
Yeah.
And that's a purse. That's not an owl feather plume.
No.
Anyway.
She does look kind of owl-like. You're right. There is a sort of like, because of the style, and it's interesting. I have thoughts about this, but I'd like to hear what you think. What do you think about the fact that like the representation of Iris in like her game world is similar to the way she looks in the cutscenes, but also very different?
More of the cutscenes. Like, since I thought she was an owl, like, you have to actually, like, see her in a cutscene with it, because she does look a little bit similar, but I think that, like, whenever you're in a game, like, theoretically, like, you always are more powerful when you're playing, because you want the player to kind of fill that void.
Yeah.
Right.
Alright, so we're in a situation here. I mean, we have plenty of health, but also I want to get this memory up here on the upper right. There isn't an easy way to do that without taking too much damage. So we're just gonna go like this. Alright, so pay close attention. So this memory will play a cutscene, so.
Okay, playing.
Don't talk to her. She's an idiot. She can't even defend herself, see? Stupid, 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 stupid.
And the cutscenes are all really brief like that.
Yeah, on Twitch at least, there's definitely very little game audio.
Really?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm fine with it being like pseudo-silent or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to go back and check. Like, you know, it's a first stream. There's going to be all sorts of
the first stream. This is fine.
dumb hiccups.
She does look the same. I think what's interesting, she has no eyes in here, or like her eyes are like she doesn't. It's not like she's looking anywhere. Does that make sense? It's kind of like her. Maybe like her eyes are closed. So this is like in her head.
That probably contributes to these sort of owl-like features. Okay, these like sad skeleton guys suck. They suck so bad. These guys, and then also this cat back here. So, can you see that attack value?
I can see that attack value. That's scary.
Yeah, that shit's gotta die. So, we're gonna AoE the kitties. We're just gonna eat the sadness. So the sadness cards suck because you draw them and then you have to get them out of your hand, and every time you play them, you do damage to yourself. Alright, I do not want this guy getting in the front row. or this guy. Oh, Jesus, and I have no AoE in my hand. Actually, I can clear through these guys with just the swords. And that is what I'm gonna do. And then we're gonna open the chest and go up the floor. Definitely want some daggers. No.